Welcome. So today we're diving into this explainer, and we are going to look at why managing your external vendor relationships is honestly absolutely critical to protecting your financial assets. Because let's face it, if you run a business today, you're not operating in a vacuum, right? We all rely on this massive network of vendors, suppliers, and partners just to stay competitive. But that interconnectedness, well, it definitely comes with a cost. And we need to kick things off with a pretty shocking reality. 61%. That's the percentage of organizations out there that have suffered a data breach caused directly by a third party. I mean, just think about that for a second. You could have the absolute best security perimeter in the world, but if the vendor supplying your billing software or, the folks managing your website leave a back door open, boom, your data and your bottom line are completely exposed. This right here is exactly why managing third-party risk is an urgent, absolutely non-negotiable priority. To tackle this, we've got a structured roadmap for today. We'll be moving through the hidden threat, identifying vulnerabilities, tiered mitigation, automation's ROI, and finally wrapping up with future-proofing.
Okay, moving right into section 1, the hidden bottom line threats, the danger beyond the gates. Basically, we're looking at how business interdependence has created a massive trap of hidden risks.
So, TPRM, third-party risk management. Look, this is not just some trendy IT buzzword. It's a foundational business practice. It's totally necessary for aligning your third-party relationships with your organization's specific risk tolerance. Think of it like this. Every single time you onboard a new vendor, you are literally inheriting their security posture, their financial stability, and their compliance standards, the whole shebang. So TPRM is the framework that ensures these external relationships don't suddenly turn into internal catastrophes that wreck your reputation and your revenue.
Which brings us to section 2, identifying the vulnerabilities, the depth of the risk. The big question here is understanding exactly what kind of vulnerabilities these external vendors are actually bringing into your ecosystem.
And the truth is, vendors introduce a massive spectrum of threats. We usually just jump straight to thinking about hackers stealing data, right? But vendor vulnerabilities go way, way beyond cybersecurity. For instance, are your vendors financially stable? If your primary supplier suddenly goes bankrupt tomorrow, well, that's a massive operational risk to your supply chain. And what about compliance? Say a partner violates industry regulations while handling your customer data. Guess what? You're the one facing the reputational damage and the heavy fines. And since the business environment is constantly changing, these risk profiles can shift incredibly fast. So how do we systematically manage this trap of risks? You've got to have a highly structured approach. Step 1, you must catalog every single relationship. Since not all vendors are created equal, you need to inventory them by the criticality of their services and the type of data they can access. Then step 2 is conducting deep risk assessments, really digging into their security certifications and their financials. And finally, step 3, you assign them a quantifiable risk score. Oh, and a quick heads up here. This score isn't a one-and-done deal. You have to refresh it periodically because, as we just talked about, these risks are literally always evolving. Okay, section 3, tiered risk mitigation, aligning resources with reality. This is where we strategically pivot to a much smarter way of handling those scored vendors.
So here's the deal. You simply cannot use a uniform process for everyone. If you try to heavily audit every single vendor, you are going to bleed time and money. It's just not sustainable. Instead, management really needs to implement a tiered control system. Take your high-risk vendors, the ones with the keys to your most sensitive financial data. They require what we call compensating controls. We're talking on-site audits, super strict contractual standards, the works, including robust incident response plans. But what about your low-risk vendors? They just fall under standard management. That might just mean keeping an eye on them through continuous monitoring of open information sources just to make sure they're staying stable.
And honestly, this just perfectly hits the nail on the head regarding a modern mitigation strategy. The level of control you apply should be directly tied to the level of third-party risk. By putting this tiered approach into action, you're building this incredibly resilient framework. It fiercely protects your bottom line, and the best part? It completely stops you from wasting your team's valuable time micromanaging low-risk suppliers, like, say, the company that waters your office plants. Moving on to section 4, the power of automation, maximizing efficiency and ROI. Let's look at how technology essentially acts as a magical shield to save you a ton of time and resources. I love this part because centralizing your risk management software delivers massive, undeniable ROI.
Get this. Industry surveys show that organizations using automated tools see a mind-blowing 60% reduction in the time it takes to complete vendor risk assessments. 60%. Imagine just handing your risk management team more than half of their time back. That's time they can actually spend proactively securing the business rather than, endlessly chasing down emails and messy spreadsheets. When you contrast the old way of doing things with the new way, it's pretty obvious why you get that huge 60% time savings. The old way relied on these uniform, manual, point-in-time scoring processes. Basically, they were outdated the very second you finish them. But centralized software platforms, they are a total game changer. They empower you with automated questionnaires and real-time dashboards, so you're getting continuous monitoring all in one single place, instantly getting alerted to changes and a vendor status before a tiny little issue balloons into a major, incredibly costly breach. And finally, Section 5, Future-Proofing with Technology. AI, blockchain, and the cloud. Let's see how we can lock in this whole mitigation strategy using some seriously advanced tech. So this right here is the true cutting edge of risk management. First up, we've got artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. These are out there processing massive volumes of data from public records and financial reports, spotting these really subtle risk patterns that a human would frankly just miss. Then we have blockchain. This steps in to create rock-solid, decentralized records of transactions, which is fantastic for preventing fraud and data tampering in your vendor ecosystem. And rounding it out, cloud solutions provide that geographic scalability you need so you can seamlessly manage thousands of global partners, all with real-time collaboration. And really, all of this tech builds toward one ultimate goal. As this industry quote points out, working smarter with advanced analytics gives you proactive power. You aren't just scrambling to react to a data breach after the damage is already done. Instead, you're actively using data to detect and shut down potential threats before they can even be actualized. That is exactly how you keep your operations running smoothly and completely protect your bottom line. So as we wrap up this explainer, I'd love for you to take a hard, honest look at your own business ecosystem today. Ask yourself, are your most trusted partners actually your greatest vulnerability? Do you really have this centralized visibility and those tiered control systems to build true cyber resilience? It might just be time to finally get your third-party risk under control. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive.